Tranquility, brought to you by Sahaj Mug.
Good evening and welcome back.
Good evening. What is the main thing that differentiates us with other species in life? What is that gift, special gift that God bestowed on human beings?
I guess it's got to be the mind. We are the most intelligent species.
True indeed. Mind is a wonderful tool to help us lead a meaningful life. It has this discriminatory factor to be able to differentiate between wrong and right.
Absolutely. The mind helps us take so many intelligent, right choices, decisions in life.
But do we really take a good care of the mind? We take care so much of our body. Going to the gym, eat healthy. But when it comes to the mind, are we really taking care of it?
I don't think so. I don't think we are that cautious with our mind as we should be. After all, it is the most precious tool we have.
The other day, I was thinking and wondering, why are we referring the mind as a monkey mind?
Why?
You see, we always jump from one thought like a branch of the tree to another thought like a branch of the tree. And then I realized, yes, the mind is the monkey mind, isn't it?
I guess so. That's a good comparison.
Our minds are hopping from one thought to the other thought, just like the monkey is hopping from one branch to the other branch. Research suggests that an average man has between 500,000 to 700,000 thoughts a day. That is, between 35 to 48 thoughts go through the human mind every minute.
I wish I could have an enough button for my mind. It could start and stop whenever I want.
Can I really control the hyperactivity of my mind? I don't really think so. But I guess sometime in the future I would really love to, get on top of it.
Sometimes when I'm free and I'm lazing around, I wonder the nature of my thoughts. It takes me from somewhere to somewhere. I just can't believe the kind of thoughts they come.
There's a constant chatter in so many of our minds, especially mine, and you just don't even realize that your mind is always chattering away and that there's a difference between who you are and your mind that's chattering.
The mind remains in constant motion. It's never at rest. It produces waves and waves of endless thoughts. Gradually, it makes you believe that what it dictates is actual reality. And we are fooled by this. The mind works to strengthen your ego and your sense of individuality. By that, it gradually separates you and isolates you, only to strengthen its grip on you thus enhancing your own slavery. Then one fine day, you find out that what you thought was your personality is actually an inheritance. And then you ask the question, how can this be me? Once the mind becomes in contact with consciousness, then the function changes totally. The mind becomes the servant of your consciousness. The mind becomes your obedient friend, so to say.
The mind just doesn't stay in one place. It's running here, there, all the time. Sadly, it doesn't have an on and off button.
When the carpenter uses the saw when he's working, or the artist using, the paintbrush when he paints, it's a wonderful sight to just watch them, how they do the work.
Yeah, that's true. But what's the point you're trying to make?
You see, you realize when there's so much involved in that work, they have 100% control. Their mind, their heart is into that work, and nothing can disturb them. The point is, when you're watching them working, they have a total control on those tools. It's like those tools dance with joy and harmony with that work.
Now I see what you were trying to say. Sadly, the mind is not like this. It is jumping all over the place and making us dance.
Rodley said, monkey mind. It will be very interesting to observe how the mind works, why it behaves the way it does. Is there any pattern or a way that the mind functions?
Is our mind not a reactive entity? Is it not always conditioned in its response? Does it not oscillate between extremes of defense and aggression? Is it not conditioned by time and space?
I don't know much, but I know one thing for sure. My thoughts are quite repetitive, rebounding between the walls of my mind. It's like a ball in the squash court,
I know I shouldn't react, but I still react. And this has given a lot of impact on my relationships.
I used to be extremely reactive. In fact, when somebody would say something to me at work, I used to cry at the drop of the hat. I'm learning to control that now.
I have happy or sad memories. I have memories of so many different places. If that means that my mind is conditioned by time and space, yes, then I think my mind is conditioned by time and space.
Absolutely. Our mind has become so unregulated. It's like a pendulum going into the extremes, from one end to the other end. Love, hate. Aggression, defense. Criticism, praise. No end.
Also, the mind has become a judgmental entity. You judge everything. Good food, bad food, people, events. Everything surrounds us. We always like to judge.
Our minds have become so patterned by our desires, prejudices, fears, apprehensions. Come to think of it, most of our thoughts are repetitive.
That's totally right. I think one of the biggest disease of the mind is its compulsive and the must to always try to solve problems. We discussed in the last episode the battle all the time to make everything right, the job right, the relationship right, everything around us right. We feel forced, it's really compelled on us to try to make it right.
Yeah, now that you tell me about it, I guess I do think of solving problems. In fact, not just solving problems, anticipating and solving problems. I guess any issues that crawl up, they are also my issues. The neighbor's dog the other day was not able to poop, and bloody hell, even that became my issue.
There was a perennial state of discontentment within me. I mean, something in my head was just not right. Like the mind was always scouting for problems. Over the years, it has lessened. Now there is an increased degree of contentment within me.
It's all the time wanting to achieve something as if what exists is not fulfilled. And something like if I'm going to achieve it or if I'm going to get something, my life is going to be fulfilled, which is never the case. Because all the time I'm trying to search for something.
Once the mind becomes in contact with consciousness, then the function changes totally. The mind becomes the servant of your consciousness. The mind becomes your obedient friend, so to say.
So whether you look at the mind as a master or a slave, does it have to be dangerous? Really, it's up to us. The mind is easily molded. It's very flexible. So it can be dangerous, it can be compassionate, it can be rebellious, it can be flexible, or it can be rigid. If you think about the famous Star Wars quote that our focus determines our reality, then it's really up to us. And how do we regulate the mind so that we can make it flexible and open and change it? Through meditation.
Isn't it a pity that all the peace and joy lies within us? But thanks to this mind, we can't reach it.
Our mind, which is an excellent instrument, has been clogged up instead of being maintained well. Now the question is, can we regulate back our mind?
The other day, I was wondering, what is the purpose of this mind?
Well, mind has to be used wisely, has this wise discriminative factor to only be able to see the good from bad and to make a right decision and a wise decision.
So that is the main role of the mind. That's it.
I would say so.
Period. Nothing more.
I am sure there must be a way to regulate the mind. But there is one issue.
Which is?
You see, when the car breaks down, you call a mechanic. When your laptop breaks, you call a technician. But tell me, when your mind is unregulated and you feel it doesn't function right, who will you call? What will you do?
Research reveals that reading self-help books, going to retreat centers, attending counseling sessions, practicing relaxation therapies, and so on, do help us with regulating the mind. However, we only get temporary relief. What do we do for everlasting change? Perhaps we are cutting the tree from its branches, hence it grows again. We need to uproot it.
I read a lot of self-help books. The Power of Now, Earth. The list is endless. It makes me feel better sometimes when I practice it for a bit. But then again, my mind goes back to the same as it was before.
Knowledge is wonderful, but if I'm not able to implement it, then what is the use? I know that it is always good to stay in the present. However, we keep pondering over our past and our future. It is hard, it's a struggle to stay in the present because the mind keeps running here and there.
As children, our minds were like a clean slate. As we grew, our mind started perceiving the world through the senses, and we started forming impressions, likes, dislikes, prejudices.
That's right. You see, the influence start from parents, to parents, teachers, family, media, friends, everything around us. And the sphere of influence increase and increase and increase.
You are right. With the repetition of the thoughts, the impressions get strengthened and hardened.
See, as a child, if we get into some conflict, we get an insult, it was easy for us to forget and move on. But now, to let it go is not so easy. We hold on to it.
True.
And as much as we try, still we cannot let go.
Rather than being a wonderful servant and a tool in our hands meant for our evolution, it has started operating on its own like a keyed toy. Thus, it has made us a slave to its own fancies and dictates. As a result, it not only causes a great deal of suffering to us, but also to people around us. Deterioration of human relationships is a testimony of mind's whims and fancies. We are aware, yet we fall prey to its follies.
I want to make my mind my friend, and I'm trying. That's why I meditate.
It's like being dragged here and there. I have no bloody say in it. I don't want to solve the problems of the world. I want to solve the problems of my mind.
Throughout our day, our minds are filled with so many different kinds of thoughts. Thoughts of what we need to do, thoughts of things that have happened to us, thoughts of things that we want, and thoughts of so many different kinds. It's natural that when we meditate, these thoughts come to the surface because we're sitting quietly or we're trying to still our minds, and in that process we find ourselves bombarded with thoughts. Now, this mind which is running in auto mode really doesn't have a switch that we can turn off, and it's not necessary to turn off the mind. Just like the eyes see and the nose smells, the purpose of the mind is to think. The problem is not the thoughts, the problem is our attention on the thoughts. So in meditation, we train ourselves, we train our mind to focus on the heart, and our attention is shifted from the thoughts to the presence of a divine light in our hearts. By doing this, we learn to disengage from this hectic activity of thoughts. And the thoughts may still continue in the background, but our attention is somewhere else. Our attention is our heart and what's happening in our heart, our feelings. By doing this repeatedly, it becomes a natural process where we're able to disengage our attention from our thoughts which are continuous to the feelings in our heart.
As you know, we live our life through our mind. The quality of our life depends on how well regulated our mind is. These days, unfortunately, it is not so. It's just running across like a wild horse. We seem to have no control on it.
The question is, can the mind be regulated to be simple and pure? Can it again be calm and still?
I'm sure it can. If it can get unregulated and wild as it is now, I'm sure it can be trained to once again become calm and tranquil.
Mind is a dangerous master, but a wonderful slave indeed. It's like a wild horse. When it is tamed, then it becomes wonderful friend. All that we see in our surroundings is the creativity of the mind that has been manifested in the form of building, roads, parks, automobiles, etc. So when it could be used for all this purpose, why not to sustained condition of peace and tranquility within us?
Since ages, back in the time, the best tool and the best way to regulate the mind was the technique of meditation.
True. In our next episode, we will speak in depth about meditation, what is meditation, the science behind meditation, and the different types of meditation.
Till then, keep well, stay tuned, and we will speak about this technique in depth. See you next week, same time, same day.
Thank you and bye. In fact, meditation is there even during the Indus Valley civilization.
What is exactly meditation?
Meditation is the art of letting go.
Tranquility, brought to you by Sahaj Mug,